You're good. Okay, thank you. So we will call the meeting to order, council meeting Thursday, April the 14th. And I'd like to acknowledge that we are on the unceded lands of the Mi'kmaq. A record of attendance, you have that, Lindsay? And there are no absent with regrets, any declarations of conflict of interest, and you can certainly declare at the time of the agenda item. We need an approval of the agenda. Are there any additions or deletions? And I see one addition, mental health and addiction supports. Deputy Mayor, go ahead, sir.
I'm wondering if we can add the topic of branding, I guess, like regional branding.
Sure. Okay. Anything else? Or additions or deletions? Did you go ahead, Councillor Cleveland?
I think we should have a discussion on the state of the roads and whether we need to put more into kind of fixing up the bad shape that they're in after this horrible year that we had.
So we can put roads on there. I think when we did, maybe we'll just take a road trip around the rest of the province and realize how good we have it. And that's the truth. That's the truth. Okay, so roads and branding, anything else? Okay, so I am looking for a motion to approve the agenda with the 3 additions. Councillor Lesser, second by Councillor Cleveland. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Contrary? Motion carried. Thank you. Okay, so approval of minutes. Committee of the Whole, March the 10th, please. Deputy Mayor, seconded by Councillor Lesser. Any discussion on that one? All those in favor? Aye. Contrary? Motion carried. Town Council, March the 10th, please. Councillor Hatfield, seconded by Deputy Mayor. All those in favor? Aye. Contrary? Motion carried. Thank you. Committee of the Whole, March the 24th. Deputy Mayor, seconded by Councillor Lesser. Discussion? All those in favor? Contrary? Motion carried. Thank you. And we had a special town council on March the 24th. Deputy Mayor, second by Councillor Hatfield. Any discussion there? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Okay, public hearing, indoor vegetable cultivation. So the motion here is that council amend the MPS and LUV to revise C1, C2M, and C3 zones to include cultivation and processing within wholly enclosed buildings, excluding the cultivation of marijuana. So that's the motion. So CAO, this was advertised so the public could come. They could send in letters, emails.
That's right, Your Worship. Where it is a planning amendment, it is a public hearing, not just a notification to the public. And we had nobody who had indicated they wanted to join the hearing to be heard. And I don't believe we've received any submissions either. So
okay. Okay, so Lindsay, nothing. There's nothing there, and there's nobody. Pardon me. Nothing. And there's no one here online to speak. So can we just take care of the motion, or we should
just
later
move on to the next item?
Yeah, it'll be on the agenda later anyway. Okay. All right. Business arising. Taxi bylaw amendment. So the recommended motion there is that council approves second reading to amend the taxi bylaw as recommended by staff and include a dollar base increase. Councillor Dares?
Yes, just very quickly. I recall that there was at least one taxi company owner that had expressed some concerns. I'm wondering if they've been dealt with.
CAO? I did speak with one that was not in favor. It was the only company that I believe we didn't receive a submission from, but I think staff had spoken with them. That's as far as I got there.
Yeah, as far as communication, I think that was through Natalie and through her office.
Yes.
And as far as having dealt with his concerns, other than answer questions, obviously nothing else has changed in the bylaw.
Yeah, I'll take that as a yes. Thank you.
Okay.
The only other thing was that I did receive information that, some of the companies may have already started the dollar increase. I did hear about that. I said it needs to be reported, but that should be taken care of by tonight. So there's a motion. Go ahead, CAO.
So Your Worship, just for clarity, so if this passes tonight, it still has to be advertised before they can charge. So once the ad appears in the local paper, then it is law.
Law. Perfect. Okay, so who wants to make that recommended motion? Councillor Dayers?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Second by Councillor Cleveland. Is there any more discussion on this one? Okay, all those in favor? Contrary? Motion carried, thank you. And the indoor 10B, indoor vegetable cultivation, the recommended motion there is that council approves second reading to amend the MPS and LUB to revise C1, C2M, and C3 zones to include cultivation and processing within wholly enclosed buildings, excluding the cultivations of marijuana. Did I just not read that?
You did for the public hearing.
Thank you. Okay. And then I said it would be on the agenda a little bit later. Okay. Who wants to make that motion? Councillor Cleveland. Second by Councillor Lesser. Is there any discussion on that one? Any questions? Go ahead, Councillor Cleveland.
If I may, I just wanted to let, for the public generally, know that this is something that went through the planning committee. We already had a very good discussion about this, and is kind of a bit of an exciting thing. So I'm kind of looking forward to this passing.
A good one. Okay. Anyone else? Any questions, concerns? All right. All those in favor? Contrary? Motion carried. New business, expense reimbursement policy amendments. CAO.
Your Worship, this is an expense reimbursement policy. Now, when councillors or staff travel for business, your travel expenses are covered, whether it's your meals, your mileage, your hotels, and so on. This policy guides how you are compensated and the authorities for signing off on the compensation or the claims when they're submitted. Recently, before I was off, there were a number of emails circulating between CAOs, largely around the increased cost of fuel and also vehicles, also food, and municipalities were looking at their expense policies and updating them slightly to reflect increased costs. And so this wasn't initiated by our normal process of policy review, and it wasn't initiated by a request from council, but it was recognizing that there was something going on more generally around inflation and whatnot, and it might be worthwhile to review our policy while others are doing it. And so I've made a number of suggestions within the policy to increase mileage rates, increase per diem rates, and the like. So this is for your consideration, and if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer.
Okay. Questions for the CAO?
What this is not doing, Your Worship, is it's not asking to increase the budget. So What I'm suggesting is that because of things like electronic meetings, we may travel less than we used to pre-COVID, because we have the opportunity to meet conveniently at virtually no cost. But there are times when you are going to travel for conferences and whatnot. And so, again, this policy would come into play then. And I think the historic numbers that we've had in our operating budget for travel should still be sufficient.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Just running through it again. I looked at it today, but. We good? There you are, Miss Bell. My computer completely booted me out at first, so your camera not working that's okay. All right, so does somebody want to make that motion then? Okay, Councillor Cleveland, seconded by Councillor Lesser. Any further discussion, questions? All those in favor? Opposed? Okay, motion carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
Now we just have to find my agenda again. Late grant requests. So the recommended motion there is that council grant $4,000 to the Roaring Twenties Antique Car Show and $1,210 to the Tri-County Women's Center. Motion by Councillor Lesser, seconded by Deputy Mayor. Discussion on that one. Go ahead, Deputy.
Just glad to see that the car show's in discussion to being back up and going, and hope to see a lot more of our regular events, the new ones taking place within our community in the spring and the summer. Looking forward to that. So glad to see it's back.
Yeah, it's a good one. Okay, anything else? All those in favor? Contrary? Motion carried. All right, licenses bylaw amendment. The recommended motion there is that council approve first reading to amend the licenses bylaw, which includes changing to vending on private property and no licenses required for photography. Okay. Are we good on that one? Do we need any explanation? Are we okay with it? Someone want to make that motion? Okay, Deputy Mayor, second by Councillor Lesser. Any discussion? All those in favor? Contrary? Motion carried. Deer Management Working Group. Just looking at you all to see who's doing a tap dance. The recommended motion here is that council adopt a modified version of the Truro Deer Management Strategy Terms of Reference. So that's the first one. Then the second motion will be that council appoint 2 councillors to a working group. So let's take care of the first one first, that we adopt a modified version. So who would like to? Okay, Councillor Heather. And seconded by the Deputy Mayor. Discussion on that one. Go ahead, Councillor Dares.
Yeah, I just wanted to kind of get my head around what modification. So what in particular?
Sure.
So, Your Worship, if you don't mind, I'll.
Absolutely.
So we took the Truro's Deer Management Working Group terms of reference, and we changed the names to protect the innocent, or we changed every instance of Truro to Yarmouth. And one thing I don't think we did get done was updating the completion date. But the intention would be, I mean, their Deer Management Working Group terms of reference was very well done. And rather than not give them credit for the great work they did and were generous in sharing with us, we've just simply taken theirs. My suggestion would be, we form a Deer Management Working Group. And we have the terms of reference on the table, and one of the first things the group might want to do is review it. And if they have any suggestions for modification, that we consider that a recommendation back to council. and that we mandate them to carry on with the work. Truro has been several years in working on their deer issue, and they're having some success. They've had some experiences that we can certainly learn from, and it starts with the presentation you had last month, and this form of approaching it as a collaborative working group has worked for them, and I think it'll work for us.
Councilor Deers, is that good? Okay. Any other questions for the CAO on this one?
I'll make that a motion then. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor.
Your Worship, Bell has her hand up.
Oh, I can't see it. Oh, there you go. Go ahead, Councilor Bell.
That's a very minor point, but I think we should probably amend page 5. There's a reference to Mike Dolter.
Yeah.
And I don't think he wants to be part of our working group. So just make that change.
Yeah,
and I'm good with it. We're good.
Good catch.
Okay, so with that change, Councilor Dares, you're good with that?
Yes.
And do we have a seconder? Hey, Councilor Cleveland, any further discussion on this piece? Go ahead.
I'd just like to make it clear, first off, the work and the presentation that was made by Truro, I thought was just really well done, and was very well organized, well put together. If there has to be a model that we follow, that certainly is the right way to go. And for those who are listening, understand this is going to take some time, because there's lots of legwork, there's lots of work to be done before anything happens. But it's going to be controversial, I believe. But I believe also that it's important. So it's something that personally and otherwise I really quite strongly support. That's all.
Yeah, thank you for that. I agree. Controversial, but much needed, and we will be keeping the public informed and reaching out to the public. That's very important, because we want to know where they are and what they're thinking. CAO, were you going to?
Yeah, I was just going to make a couple of comments on that. Is that some of the work that Truro did that we will have to replicate is understanding the population, the deer population, and where they are, and try to get some sort of estimate around numbers, and that will serve us in the future, and that will be an exercise that will continue year after year. But that'll serve us as a way of monitoring the deer population, because any action that we take, whether it's exactly what Truro is doing or something different, any action we take to reduce the size of the deer population, our best way of monitoring it is to have data and replicate the process year after year. So to get a base year or two, under our belt as we start to examine our options for interventions, will serve us well. And as you know, Truro has gone ahead with a deer hunt, and they've done that with a few years of data under their belt, and they'll be able to monitor quite closely what the impact of that is over time. So as they go into next fall and they do a follow-up hunt, they'll be able to see and adjust their activity according to how it's impacting on deer and human interactions, but also any evidence of the population actually shrinking of deer. So it's a lot of work to do, and I'm not sure we'll end up in the same place as Truro, but we have that and other options that they've explored and our group may come up with to look at. So communication has been key, as we heard from Mike Dolter. Communication with the public in their community was important, and as I think he illustrated in his presentation, over time the attitudes of the population shifted, I think, as they became more aware of the options and the pros and cons of each. And so I think we may have to walk that same journey with our community, making sure that that they're aware of what the working group is doing and the pros and cons of various options, and see where we end up.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, so the motion is to adopt that modified version terms of reference. It was moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor? Contrary? Motion carried. Thank you. And then the second one under the deer management is that council appoint 2 counselors to the deer management working group. Who would like to make that motion? Okay, Deputy Mayor, second by Councillor Hatfield. I guess I'm going to ask some, like, who else is on that working group? We can pass this, but maybe just an idea.
There will be invitation to lands and forestry, wildlife biologists. There's opportunity for people from the private sector who are knowledgeable in the area of wildlife and wildlife management. There'll also be opportunity, or should be opportunity, for citizens of the town, just lay people who are citizens of the town who are interested in the issue, because part of what we need to do is bring the community along with us. It's not just about the experts and the people in government. It's about the community, and so and with counselors on there as well, and some staff resources. I know we have. Mike mentioned in his presentation that they didn't have anyone on staff that hunted. Well, that's not our situation. We do have some hunters on our staff, and they may be appropriate staff leads to be involved in this, because they certainly would know a lot more about deer behavior and deer population and whatnot than some of the rest of us. So so we'll have to put a call out. We'll have to determine how many citizen members we want to have on the committee, and my suggestion would be maybe 3 or 4, and put a call out to see who's interested. And it doesn't always have to be people who are hunters or knowledgeable about deer.
Yeah.
Our issues are around people with gardens and people with cars colliding with deer. So it can just be literally people, anybody from the community who is interested in seeing something done.
Perfect. Thank you for that. Okay, so are we good with the motion, folks? Any more comments, questions? Okay, all those in favor? Contrary? Motion carried. Now, CAO, is it appropriate now to appoint?
2 counselors, I think we can do that.
Yeah, if council's okay with that this evening. I don't know if we want to think about it, but if you want to do that this evening, we can. Councillor Cleveland?
Your worship, but as this is an issue that I've been concerned about for a good long time and that I talk about a lot, I would very much like to be part of that if it's okay with the rest of council.
Councillor Dayers?
And I will second that. I'd also like to be involved.
Okay, there's 2. Anyone else? If there's anybody else, we can vote. It doesn't, don't be shy. Councillor Lesser?
I'm just going to say I'm not interested. I have personal feelings on it, and I've got a bit of a cold here, so I've got personal feelings on it that I don't want to interrupt the process at all. And obviously, I'm going to support what the public wants, but I don't think I really have much to add to the group, where others may have a lot more advice they can give. So I'm definitely not interested in being part of it.
Good. Okay, Councillor Dayers? Yeah. Oh, you just muted yourself. You went backwards.
Sorry.
There you go.
I'd just like to respond to Councillor Lesser. Some of the interest I have in this is, number one, that this be done in as humane a fashion as possible, and that every consideration for use of the carcasses, whether it be whatever, that it all be processed properly. We make something good come out of something that we would prefer not to have to do. And so that's where my interest lies.
That's a great way to phrase it. Thank you. Thank you for that. Okay, so then I am looking for a motion to appoint Councillor Cleveland and Councillor Dares to the Deer Committee. Councillor Lesser will make that motion, seconded by the Deputy Mayor. Any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor? Contrary? Motion carried. Thank you, gentlemen, for stepping up into that. Go ahead, Deputy.
I'm wondering if it wouldn't be appropriate to maybe send a letter of thanks to the town of Truro and their CAO for the great presentation and kind of saving us some time for having to go through 2 or 3 years of our own growing pains to figure things out. I know the presentation was great and it probably saved us quite a bit of work. So maybe just to thank you for that, because, you know, it is an issue here and it's nice to kind of hit the ground running, I think.
Okay, so that's your motion. Okay, seconded by, okay, everybody, Councillor Dares. Okay, all those in
don't get an
favor?
invoice.
All those in favor? Contrary? Excuse me. I live down the street from Derek. I caught his cold. All those in favor? Aye. All right. Motion carried. Okay, thanks for that, folks. All right, reports, council advisory, so committee of the whole. Deputy Mayor, that's you.
The recommended motion that council directs staff to investigate the appropriate town-owned properties and support in principle the Juniper House application.
Okay, seconded by,
So
no, it's not, I was just gonna say, don't second that.
I'd like to declare a conflict. I'm sorry I didn't jump on it sooner. I'll be, I guess, virtually shutting off my mic and my camera and virtually leaving the table. Thank you.
Okay, seconded by Councillor Hatfield. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Can somebody go in the hall and get Councillor Dares?
There he is.
Oh, this is just so funny how we have to do this. Okay, go ahead, Deputy.
The recommended motion that council directs staff to draft amendments to the citizen appointment policy according to the discussion of March 24th for further discussion on April 28th committee of the whole agenda.
Okay, so moved, seconded by Councillor Lesser. Any discussion? All those in favor? Oh, go ahead, Councillor Cleveland.
Sorry, and I just want to jump on this, and we've had this discussion before, and we're trying to make things clearer by moving this forward, which is great, and there is some progress that's been made. But as we run into things like, for example, as you know, I'm the chair of the Mariner Center Management Board, and the development of matrices and those kind of things, it becomes awkward, and I don't know how to fix that within policy to make it make sense. But when you're doing some kind of a matrix-based selection process within the Mariner Center, it makes it really difficult to align necessarily with those policies sometimes, even when it comes down to selections. So I just want you to be aware of that, and that, you know, those little gratings, I think, will continue to happen, at least to some degree, as we move on to, as much as possible, creating those kind of matrix selection processes for all of the committees.
Yeah, it's a good point. Thank you. Go ahead, Councillor Lesser.
Just hoping my voice holds out. Anybody who missed the discussion that we had on this, I guess it was on March 24th. Part of the discussion was around making sure that we get the right people for the positions and include diversity within that, which is an important aspect of it. And also to make sure that it's not just the same group of people that continue on in those roles. So I know that's probably some of the public's concern is, you know, with this policy, perhaps allow us to kind of stack the table with people that we want to continue going on. And it's actually, it hopefully will do the opposite, or it should do the opposite. So
Exactly. Yeah, good point. Thank you. Okay, so anything else on this one? All right, all those in favor? Contrary? Motion carried. Deputy?
Recommended motion that council accept the capital budget for 2022-2023 with the proposed amendments attached.
Okay, so I have a question here. So Councillor Cleveland adds roads and asks if we should add more funding. Should we have that conversation now? Or is it for next budget?
Well, Your Worship, if it's going to impact this year's capital budget, it's going to be tight. Now we can do a reallocation after the fact. I think that there are some areas, and I'll just use sidewalk construction as an example, where we have a number plugged in there, and certainly we've talked about sidewalks, and Chad has a list. But if it's a higher priority for council to see, let's say, $100,000 more dollars spent on asphalt than on concrete sidewalks versus roadway itself, then you can make that allocation. It doesn't have to be tonight. It can be later on. We can have a discussion with Chad. But one of the things that I think he'll tell you is that for last year, for instance, he was unable to get the entire budget spent. And that wasn't because he didn't have sections of roads that we needed done. It was the demand on the industry that was there with provincial contracts and private contracts and whatnot. There was just only so much time and resource that they were able to apply to the town for the work we needed done. And so we didn't get all the work done last year that we wanted. And so increasing the budget isn't necessarily going to result in more work being done. So maybe it's the kind of thing where you can think about an allocation, a reallocation. There's not a lot of room in the capital budget, but you can think about that. But we should discuss it with our manager of public works as well, because it just might not be practical to expect more to be done in terms of repaving. We do have, as you know, a asphalt recycler that our own forces use, and they recycle asphalt and use that as a more permanent patch kind of approach to areas that we can't get to for full-out repaving or aren't ready yet for full-out repaving. Again, you can talk to the manager of public works about the use of that as an interim measure to repaving.
So what we're getting is some of last year's budget to be spent, plus what we put in for this year for paving.
Okay.
Correct?
I don't have it open in front of me, Your Worship. Apologize for that.
No, that's okay. I mean, that must be what it is, because we would budget for this year while catching up for last year. I just remember seeing those.
Yes, so I'm looking at it now, Your Worship. There was $163,000 that was unable to be spent last year. That will carry forward, and there's an additional $300,000 to go on top of that. Okay, so $463,000 would be the available budget this year at this point.
Okay. So, and I'm asking the question, Councillor Cleveland, because you put that on there. And if you're okay with that, I just want to make sure we're okay with the capital budget, to okay the capital budget as it is, with those two things in the paving. And if not, then we'll have to wait.
No, I'm okay. What I would like to say, and we all know it, it was a particularly tough year on roads. And yes, it was a tough year on roads everywhere. There's no way to say that ours are worse than anybody else's, but ours are bad is the thing. And there is going to be a need for an enormous amount of maybe patching if we need to use the recycler. And that takes resources. I know it takes human resources to make that work too, but it is something that needs to be looked at in a serious way. And I understand that, last year they had a lot of issues because the paving company that we had was just simply too busy. And it's probably going to be the same this year because, again, everybody is having the same problems we are. But it still it needs to be noted here that it should be looked at in a maybe a more direct way, and maybe some of that assessment. And don't get me wrong, I'm not sure what the process is, but whether or not some of those roads even need to be reassessed and put up higher on the list when it comes to the patches that are required. But there are some places in town where it's quite frankly scary with the holes in the road. And I know it's through no fault of our own. It's the nature of our weather. We get the freezing, and then we get the wet, and then we freeze again, and everything breaks up. But it just needs to be looked at. That's all.
Yeah.
So that's fine with me.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure. The other thing is, and I can't speak to it because I don't know where they are, but they do provincially have a roads committee. And I mean, it's no secret. I say it all the time. You know, we have every weekday, we have 6,700 people in town. Every weekday, 20,000 in town. So, you know, especially for the arterials, and I think part of the work that they're doing is to get some funding for those arterials. You know, the safety aspect, trying to get an ambulance and fire and all those, all those vehicles safely to where they need to go. It's important, and the town should not be bearing the whole cost of the roads that are used by the entire region. So I'm hoping that comes out sooner than later. I think I'll probably have to check in the next week or so, but might make a little bit of a difference to us and see where we are. I know they were nearing the end. I know, so hopefully.
Your Worship, perhaps this is something we should bring up during our meetings at NSFM as well.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, I might even check to see if there is an update. They might have an update planned, but I don't remember seeing it on the agenda. So it is a good question to bring up. It's been long enough. Trying to figure that one out. So Councillor Cleveland's okay with this. Was there anybody else concerned with the capital budget? Any questions that the CAO can answer or we can discuss? Just want to make sure you're all good. Go ahead, Deputy.
It's not so much about the capital budget, but just more on paving. Often this is one of the complaints I'm sure we all hear on the campaign trail and over again. And I think sometimes people forget we also drive on these roads. They do the same things to our vehicles. If there was a magic wand, if there was some way, we could fix this, we would. Obviously, if you travel around our province, given our climate, it's everywhere. But this isn't something we kind of throw aside and, la-di-da with the rest of the money. And if this is something that, could be fixed, and it would be. But, definitely we hear the concerns, are compassionate with it, but we also drive on these roads also. And, hopefully some provincial or federal funding maybe coming down the tubes that could help too. But we hear you, but there's no magic wand, and we're definitely doing what we can also. But like I said, our vehicles are there, and we know. So we'll continue to chip away.
Exactly. Go ahead, Councillor Dares.
Yeah, I think what's one of the comments that I found most interesting was that we weren't even able to exhaust our budget last year because of the lack of service. So I think that the public needs to know that the budget was there for it. We just weren't able to get it done.
Yeah. And
so it's not for lack of wanting to do it.
Exactly. The other piece is, if we're putting it all on the table, and I've had this conversation with many people, that when we take Parade Street, for example, and Cliff and Brown Street, our infrastructure is so old that we just can't pave over some of these. We have to dig everything up, and it's not thousands, it's millions of dollars. And we're tremendously thankful for the assistance that we do get. But, we're putting in a lot of money to make sure that the infrastructure is good to go. And those streets are beautiful, but we really want to get to, I think all of our vehicles want us to get to smooth roads, but she's a long haul. So we're on it. Okay. So back to the budget. Are we good? All those in favor? Contrary? Motion carried. Thanks, folks.
Thank you.
Parking on Chestnut Street. The recommended motion is that council direct. Oh, go ahead there, Deputy. I don't want to do your job.
Stealing my thunder. I recommend a motion that council directs staff to investigate parking on Chestnut Street.
Okay, seconded by Councillor Cleveland. Any discussion? I'm not voting for this one because I just think it's by virtue of the fact that we're a busy town, but that's neither here nor there. Okay. All right. All those in favor? Okay. Contrary? Motion carried. Okay. Citizen Advisory, Planning Advisory Committee. Councillor Cleveland, did you have something there?
Your Worship, I have nothing that needs to be passed. A quick update on a couple of things. First one being that next time through we'll have things to pass because we have a couple of public participation meetings that need to take place at our next planning committee meeting. So there are things in the works. It just needs to go through the process. So that's number one. Number two, and our CAO can mention this as well, and that's the fact that we have a new planner. And so I would like to take a moment, CAO can talk about that part of it, but I would like to take a moment as chair of the Planning Advisory Committee to say thank you to Reed Shepherd and the group that we had in the interim who did a great job. And so I wanted to make sure publicly that it was mentioned, as they were really terrific. Reed was a great guy. It was great to work with.
Thank you, Councillor. CAO?
Yeah, no, I just mentioned that Tony Morse has joined us as our planner, and you'll get to meet him in the coming weeks and months as he gets his feet wet and in his service to the town. We're very excited. It's not the usual thing that when you're looking for such a specialized kind of role that you're able to find somebody just around the corner. And this gentleman was already living in the community and he had relocated here or located here with his partner and for work. He was finishing up some contract work in Ontario remotely, and then was looking for something in his field in our neck of the woods, and lo and behold, it just worked out nicely. Very nice young man, and we're just tremendously excited to have him aboard.
Wonderful. Good news. Thanks for the update, Councillor. Reports for information. Okay, tender results. That the recommended motion is that Council award the Haley Road Trial Phase 4 to Aberdeen in the amount of $756,022.43 plus HST. Deputy Mayor, seconded by Councillor Hatfield. Any discussion on this one? When do they start?
So, Your Worship, once it's awarded, the next step would be a project startup meeting. And I know that Mark is already in the process of, I say Mark, but it may be DeMario. But in any case, our engineering department's already in the process of sort of getting ready for that in anticipation of this being approved. Mark did send me a text today just to in case council asked the question. This came in $12,000 under budget, so really pleased with that. So very close bid, and as you can see, this was the low bid, and so obviously approval is recommended, and we're excited about it.
Good news. That's wonderful. Deputy, go ahead.
I think this is great, just continuing on with the work that's been done around the Haley Road and whatnot. And I know a lot of us who were up around Sarah Corning Drive during the election had heard the importance of the citizens who live there to have a place to, connect to, and as well as kids who, walk to and from school. I think this is great. And shout out to Councillor Don Barry, who I know this was a special one for him, that he pushed for this for a long time too. So, and after talking to Mr. Brophy, he's quite hyper to get this one going too. So this is really great to see for the citizens up and around this area, and continuing our active transportation trails and connectors all over.
Thank you. Okay, so did we make that motion? We did not. Did somebody make the motion? Yeah, you made the motion. We haven't voted. Okay. Councillor Dares, did you want to share something or you? Okay. I think the motion was made.
Wanted to vote in favor.
Okay, all those in favor, besides Councillor Dares. Okay, opposed? Motion carried. Thanks, folks. Okay, questions for committee chairs. Anything there that you want to ask each other or Councillor Heather, do you want to maybe give us a brief about, I did just write my article today for the Southwest, but it was tremendously helpful what you sent in around the communities in bloom. So if you don't mind giving us an update.
Sure. A couple things. April is Adopt a Block month. And so we encourage all citizens to get out and adopt a block. And a block doesn't have to be your entire block. It can just be the street. It can be your front yard. It can be your neighbor's front yard. It can be the park down the street, whatever it is that you choose to take on. And just pick up the litter. And it doesn't take a lot of time. It's just a matter of kind of doing it. So we really appreciate all those that do it, and we hope that more people will get out and do it. With the ferry coming back and the tourists coming to town, we want this place to look really spiffy and clean. So we're looking for help from wherever we can get it, and we certainly appreciate all those that do it. Communities in Bloom Committee actually is going to be doing a cleanup on Water Street on the last Tuesday of the month. 5:30, we're meeting in Brown Street parking lot. So if anyone wants to join us, they can do that. And I know meeting with the Milton Improvement Society this morning, they're planning a cleanup as well in the Milton area the last of the month. So it can be a group or a family or an individual's doing that. The other thing from Communities in Bloom is that this is the 2002 has been declared the Year of the Garden. And so we looked at it as a committee what we could do within the town to celebrate that without imposing a lot of work on our staff. And so we've decided and come up with a program called It Up Yarmouth. And the Step It Up being put a pot of flowers, a pot of herbs or vegetables or whatever on your step. Make your steps look pretty in your front yard. And when people are out driving around, that's what they'll see. Hopefully on everybody's doorstep is a plant or a pot of something. And just it's stepping it up for the tourists that are coming to town. So we're really excited about starting that program. The other piece too is that town of Yarmouth hire students in the summer as part of the green team. So just a reminder to the youth out there that I know Todd is looking for people. I think the advertisement has already gone out, but I don't know how many applicants he's received. So I think they're still open for that. So youth students looking for work, get your application in and be part of our green team for the summer. Thanks.
Thank you for that. Councillor Lesser?
And any of those positions, like summer positions, excuse me, are they based around like equitable employment as well? I know there's those positions. There's positions with rec department. Do we have a something in our policy that would allow for equity? I guess I don't know if I'm making sense.
You are.
Okay. I just know. I guess what I'm getting at is I know of students who have applied in some positions that are government funded, not necessarily town positions, but aren't necessarily looked at because they're not as well known, or their parents aren't as well known. And I'd like to see, everybody get a fair shake at it. So I'm not talking specifically about summer jobs that are happening in town, but I know some of the government jobs that are offered in the summer, sometimes they seem to go to the same demographic, I guess.
So, Your Worship, I'll respond to that. I would say that the town doesn't practice a favoritism within our hiring. It doesn't matter if we know your parents or whatnot. That's not a factor. We look for students who want to do the work, and frankly, getting numbers of applicants in recent years has been down. So I think that's why perhaps Councillor Hatfield was mentioning this, is that we would like to see more applicants. As far as equitable employment, I would say that I'd have to check our policy, honestly. It's something that we're conscious of, but I don't know if we've codified that. I don't know if we've put that in our hiring policy, to be honest. So, we pride ourselves as a local government in not allowing local politics, and that's at the staff level or at the political level, to get involved in the hiring process, right? And I think, I think our practices have been solid. I've not heard complaints of that nature, and but if you have, I'd be willing to listen to them, for sure.
Yeah, and it wasn't, like I said, I wasn't specifically talking about town positions, but it's sometimes the government, funding for government summer jobs, and I would say outside of town, haven't always, I have heard concern about it. But I guess one way I know that, if we looked at that, one way you can do it is if you have 5 positions, you could say that one has to be a position of equity. And I know that's what we do, like at the regional center. If we're advertising a number of positions, we try to have one filled by somebody with some diversity as well.
Yep.
Good. Thanks for that, Derek. Councillor Bell and then Councillor Dares.
Thank you, Your Worship. I just wanted to check, going back to the Adopt a Block program. In past years, my recollection is that if you register with Waste Check, that they will provide bags and gloves. And I think they also in the past have actually picked up or made arrangements to have the garbage picked up, because sometimes the garbage that you collect is not garbage that you'd necessarily want to put out in your own garbage, because it's nasty stuff sometimes. So I'm just wondering, it's just,
It's true.
Yeah. So I'm just wondering if Waste Check is still involved in that process. Should people be contacting Waste Check and to coordinate their Adopt a Block efforts? And not that they have to, obviously, because we clean up all the time, but the Waste Check is available and will provide some logistic support.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Thanks, Councillor Bell.
Thank
you're
you.
right. Waste Check is will assist with that. They do have all the supplies. Anything that you need, you can contact them. They do encourage you to register with them so that it becomes part of the data that is collected. But that doesn't mean that if you don't register that you can't do that, or that you can't get supplies, because you can certainly get them. Give them a call. Just go out to the building and ask for them. And as far as pickup, I know that if there's a large amount, they certainly will come pick it up, or contact the town as well, the park staff with the town, and they'll come pick it up. So there's certainly lots of help out there for people that want to go out and pick up.
Great. Thank you.
Is the gloves and the garbage bag. They also have vests that they will lend. So if somebody wants to, you want to put your child in a vest that's, kind of shines a light on them so that it's safer. It's really great. They pull out all the stops. Okay. Any more questions? Go ahead, Councillor Dare. Sorry about that.
No, thank you. It's just a final comment. My involvement with the Communities in Bloom Committee precedes my term on council. I was a member of the committee for several years before being elected, but I just want to tell you what a joy it is to be involved with that particular committee. They're enthusiastic. They're always looking for a way to improve our community, and it's just an absolute joy to work with them. And I also want to give Councillor Hatfield a shout out because she does an ace job of chairing that committee.
Thank you. We all agree. Go ahead, Deputy.
I just wanted to say the high school is planning on getting involved in that with Earth Day coming up. We're thinking about doing the block here in the subway trail. So it's something we're going to get on to planning there early next week. And once again, contacting Waste Check so they're aware of what we're doing. And it's our hope that maybe the kids, if they realize, the amount of junk that they do throw down and whatnot, and they actually clean it up and see it, that hopefully, down the road it inspires them and others not to do it. So just to say that, things are rolling there and there will be something done here at the high school as well with our youth.
Good stuff. Councillor Cleveland?
Okay, I've got a weird one for you. And I apologize, but it crossed my mind because in listening to this, and I do constant cleanup, and I know that a lot of people do a lot of cleanup, and it's sad to me. Don't get me wrong. I love what everyone does, but it's sad to me that it has to be done at all. But it leads me to this question because I walk the active living trails a lot. I run them as well. And I have a practical question for you that I'm just curious about. There is a grocery cart in the Broad Brook at the where Parade Street is. So where Broad Brook is on Parade Street, there's a crossway there, and I'm looking at UCAO. But there is it's just laying in there. And I was planning on in doing the cleanup. I was planning on getting down there and at least pulling it up. My question is, what the hell do I do with it? Or where would I put it? Maybe Heather, you could answer that. Is there someone I could contact? What would I do with the darn thing?
I'll take that.
Okay. I was going to.
Not the grocery cart. Not the grocery cart. So I know nothing about grocery carts, Counselor. I wouldn't know if a grocery cart pulled out of the brook is still of service. Like I don't know how they're maintained, but if they have a store name on them, maybe returning it to the store might be thing to do. If in your assessment, once you get it out, that it's it's beyond its useful life in terms of it won't work.
I'm sure it must be.
Then I would put it with the garbage bags and it will be taken away. There's all kinds of things that come out of roadside cleanups from tires to you name it. And, when that stuff is brought to the landfill, I don't know how much, and certainly tires are probably pulled out and separated. The metal shopping cart might be thrown in the metal pile. You do get some interesting finds, I guess, in roadside cleanups.
Now, a little further up Parade Street on my pathway where I follow, just past the brook, there's been some work done and a tree got cut down with a whole bunch of pieces there that ended up getting, I think they're gone now, but they had been left there over a period of time. And the devil in me said what I should do is get the cart, bring it over there, pile the wood in, and just kind of leave it there, see if anybody took it as an invitation. But at any rate, I'm sorry.
Councillor Bell, your hand is still up. I don't know if it's. Nope. Okay. All right. So any more questions? Are we good? All right. So additions, we'll start with the mental health and addiction supports, Deputy.
Given that the provincial and federal budget just came down not too long ago, I'm wondering if I'd like to make a motion actually that we contact the appropriate level of government and request just a list of supports or potential supports that we could have for our area that so desperately need it, both in mental health and addiction. Sometimes these new programs come and, you know, if you don't jump on things right away, I think we all know and, you know, have family and friends who are affected by this, and anything we could do to support our community to make sure that they get the support that they need would be great. So I'd like to make that motion that we contact the appropriate level of government just to see what's available for our area.
Second by Councillor Lesser. Did you want to speak to that, Derek, or are you good?
No, I actually was just seconding it, but it's a great motion. I think it's really needed. So
yeah, I thought there was something in the works. For some reason, I thought there was something in the works, and it didn't come through because I know Zach was pushing for that. So I think the appropriate person to go through is Zach as our MLA, and then maybe a letter to the department, because it is a new department with a focus on addictions and mental health. So, okay, so moved and seconded. Any discussion on that one? All those in favor? Contrary? Motion carried. And I still see Councillor Bell's hand up, but she will come on when she... Okay, so second is branding, and that's you, Councillor Lesser.
yeah, it's nothing major, I guess, other than wondering if we capture, like, having tourists come back this summer. Does the province, I guess, or maybe through YASTA, do we capture what it is that tourists enjoy about our area? And I asked that because I met the other day with a lady from France in my other job with international students. And she said she can't, like, she's traveling the province, and she said she can't believe that we exist here and that so few people know about it. And she was, you know, talking about driving down on the highway, which sometimes when I drive international students back from the airport and they just see trees for 3 hours, I somewhat feel embarrassed, but the students love it. And, you know, I think we have a real gem in the fact that we have all kinds of international students here all year that can give us a lot of feedback. And then during the summertime when the boat is coming across, I'm wondering if there's any, like, do we capture, I guess, from them what it is they enjoy about our area so that we can really brand ourselves on that. And I know, you know, we have the brand, Edge of Everywhere. I'm not 100% sure I understand it, to be honest. It's catchy. And I'm just not, yeah, I guess it's like, when I think of Yarmouth as a tourist, what is it I'm thinking of, and why would I want to go? And, you know, we hear often from people that are traveling to the area, especially in my line of work, it's how friendly the people are, how quiet and slow paced our lives are compared to, you know, living in a major city, being able to look up and see the stars, seeing so much vegetation and wildlife around. And it's those simple things that I think we take for granted, but just wondering if it's something, do they capture that at any point, whether it's through the province or YASTA, or to find out what it is that people enjoyed while they're here?
I'm going to let Councillor Cleveland, if you don't mind speaking to that. I know they capture it. And everything you said is actually everything that we sell.
Yeah. And our branding, like, for example, the town of Yarmouth has the Edge of Everywhere, but that's not our branding for tourism. Our branding for tourism is where the stars align. And I think YASTA does a pretty good job of marketing. We don't market within ourselves, and I think that's a bit of a weakness that I'd like to improve upon in the coming years. But we do a very good job, I think, of marketing to the areas where we're trying to bring people in, which are usually Ontario. In the last while, when it came to COVID, there was more concentration within the Atlantic provinces, but for the most part, it's Ontario, the rest of Canada, and of course the New England states, which is our big bread and butter. But yes, there is a lot of that capturing, and a lot of that capturing, it isn't done so much like for example, I mean, it would be a great idea to capture that from your international students. It's great to get those kind of perspectives, and I'm sure nobody's looking at that. What we capture normally would be things like the experiences. We get the reviews and that kind of thing from those experiences that we offer, and from the cat. A lot of that comes from the cat, and of course we haven't had the cat for the last few years, so you lose it at that point, but that's where the information gets captured from. But I think that's a great idea, Councillor Lesser, to kind of capture those international students, and maybe I'll make a note of that, and I'll reach out to you about that, and we could do something with them. I think that's a great idea.
Yeah, perfect. And I know when I see the branding now, it's, a lot of the Acadian Shores, Yarmouth and Acadian Shores is, it's focused a lot on the sky with the advertising, and the videos are really good. I had on a side story, I had an agent from Italy the other day write to me and say the parents of this daughter tried to find out more about us and couldn't really find anything positive about our area. And my response back was, looking at the city she's in, I wrote back and sent a video showing that city can actually not be that great. And I said, we can look at things online and assume that everything's correct. But so I went to the Astor website and grabbed a bunch of videos and sent it. And now the family's very excited to come because, I think depending on what you type into Google, you can find whatever it is that you want. And I think we do have a lot, like what we offer here is unique. And I think it's just a natural gem that I think we are starting to brand well. I think that's what's captured in a lot of the videos and pictures now. So thank you.
Well, in a bit of absolutely shameless self-promotion, in June, we are going to be hosting TMAC, which is the Tourism Media Association of Canada. Usually in a good year, we can get, 2 or 3 different tourism writers to come to our area and write, and they always write glowing things. They do. We'll have 85 of them here in June. It's going to be major. It's going to be exciting, and that's really going to be something that's going to pay off in the long run. So any publicity that we can get to the positive is huge. And so not only are we on the edge of everywhere, I sincerely believe this, after a few years of not doing particularly well because of COVID, because of everything, we are on the edge of really having a big breakthrough, because people are looking for what we're offering, which is an absolutely gorgeous area with amazing hospitality, beautiful views, and lots of adventures. So I'll shut up now. I get a little carried away with it, but it's something that really excites me, and I think I think we're building a real industry here.
I couldn't agree more. And the last place, sometimes the first place people go is to Facebook, check out town, area, and that's the last place they should go. I wouldn't want to live anywhere else on the face of this earth but here, because it's amazing. We're kind people. It's beautiful. It's quiet. The quality of life is second to none. But if you go on social media, I think we were the end of the world. And I'll say this, that makes me really, really sad, because the people that are out there posting and trashing businesses and people and everything that we're doing have no idea the impact they're having on the other end. That people actually look and say, I'm not going to Yarmouth. And then they say, why don't we have enough money to pay for roads? Because you keep telling people not to come here. So it's an issue. It's an issue, and it's sad.
It is really hard on Google. I actually tried to find something negative about an area, and you have to dig pretty deep to find it. So it is definitely Facebook. If you're on Facebook looking, there's a lot of people here that really like to trash what's going on. Mm-hmm. We have a lot of really positive influencers, like Steve does a lot of positive influencing, but they're not. If you're typing in Yarmouth, you might not come across that. But the Y-Town, Fine Interceptor, and all these sites are just deadly to what
Yeah.
to what so many people are trying to accomplish. So I think it is Facebook. I think you're correct.
Sad. Okay, we're good. The next one is, it was roads, but Councillor Cleveland, you're good on that one?
It's all good.
All right, so we're done those. Approval of invoices, please. Councillor Lesser, second by Councillor Dares. All those in favor? Steve, water checks are good today. Okay, opposed? Good. Date of next meeting is May the 12th. And we're looking for a motion to go in camera. Okay, Deputy Mayor, second by Councillor Lesser. All those in favor? Opposed?